Good day everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to do a review and test drive on track for the 2022 Camaro ZL1. Bought this car 2 weeks ago. I have about 1,800 kilometers on it so far. And I did 2 half-day track sessions at Calabogie. And I'm very impressed with the car so far. Even in stock form, it's extremely good. The tires themselves are the Goodyear Supercar 3, which have a 200 tread wear. They are nice and sticky on track and also are really good in the wet as well. So a nice balance between street and track use. One thing I did notice though is that the tread wear with the stock setup, there is some excessive wear going on here on the outer part of the tire, which is normal. So that means that I have to do a negative camber adjustment. I'm going to start at about 2 degrees and kind of go from there just to try to balance out the wear on the tire. An important note, drop the pressure in the tire. At least, well, I wouldn't say at least, drop it 6 pounds. So the stock setting is 32, drop it to 26 when you go on track, and they will actually bring the pressure back up to 32 when you're running. And then at the end of the track day, let them cool down a little bit. You can inflate them back to 32. There's a little compressor in the back of the car under the rear floor mat. And that plugs into the accessory plug in the car. And I'll show you where that's located right now. Open up the trunk. Lift this up. And here's your little compressor right in this bag. And the gauge is actually quite accurate on it as well. And the accessory plug for that it plugs into is right here. So handy to have at the end of a track day. One thing I did notice also with the brakes, with the factory fluid, there was fade. So it needs to have like a Castrol SRF .4 put in to prevent that. Pads themselves seem to be strong, but the fluid itself was boiling off too early, and need to change that to a .4. Just a couple of little annoyances. I mean, I love the car, don't get me wrong, but for track usage primarily, these are a couple of things that seemed to bother me a little bit. And that is when you're about to go on track and you are going into your performance management programs, and once you have them set, you have to keep going back and changing them every session. So you have to go into track mode, which is done through the mode button here. Go to track, double tap the traction control button twice. Then your active handling program is here. I go down into Sport 1 at this point, at least, because the car is still fairly new to me. And then when I'm done my session and you stop the car and you restart it to go on to your next session, it defaults back to tour mode. So therefore you have to go back and change it all again. So you go back into track mode, double tap here to go into your traction performance, go down into Sport 1. And that also is the same with Rev Match. The Rev Match has to be done every time too. So if you shut your car off and you had Rev Match on, it starts, the default is off. So that's just something to be aware of. The other thing I found is when you're driving on track and you have your arm here as you're driving, your forearm or wrist will come in contact with these buttons, traction control or mode, and change the settings as well. So you have to be conscious of that. So when you're driving, make sure that you're resting more on here as opposed to down in here. The performance recording system is really nice. The quality is great, but I find when you're doing your start-finish line, defined start-finish line, there's a delay there of about 3 seconds. So when you as you are crossing the start-finish line and you're defining that line on your recording device, it's not instantaneous. So that will not be that accurate to display your actual track time. And if you wanted to use your time air, which is in the display here, it's the same deal. If you, I hit that too soon. If you hit it, there's a delay of about 1 second. Instantaneous when you press pause, you hold it to reset it, and then when you hit it again, I'll hit it now, there's at least a second there. So that's not accurate for keeping recording times. One other thing that I found with the car is the lack of storage. They have the little center console here. I got a wallet, a pair of sunglasses, and another timer, and that's about all it can hold. So then you have to resort to the back pockets, the back of the seat, or the glove box. The glove box is fairly big, so you can store a lot of your stuff in there. The seats themselves, the Recaro with the microfiber, is beautiful. Super supportive for both thigh and side bolstering in here. And the other nice thing is when you're on track, of course, you turn your air conditioning system off so you can use the ventilated seat feature, which helps keep you cool while you're driving. Other than that, I mean, these are just nitpicking a little bit, but the car overall is just an absolute weapon. I'm considering maybe some 19-inch rims, but again, we'll have to see if that's going to create me hitting the red line earlier, meaning I'll have to shift more. More you shift, of course, the slower the lap time. So that's going to be a compromise, and I'll have to give that some further thought. Other than that, guys, I can't say enough good things about it. Exhaust note is good. One thing that you'll find is when you do your settings for your vehicle in driving mode, those will always stay the same. They won't default to a factory setting. If you have it set for track sound, for instance, that'll always stay. Every time you shut it off, it'll always resort back to your track setting. Steering feel, I keep mine on sport. That never changes. And suspension, I keep it on tour mode when I'm on the road, but when I go on track, I'll set it on track mode. So that's something you have to be conscious of as well. So make sure that you, to prevent the least amount of roll, keep it in track mode when you go on track, and then resort back to tour mode if you prefer a softer ride on your way home or on the street. So I hope you enjoy the video that's upcoming with the track run that we're about to do. And if you have any comments, please. Here's an example of a driver giving an early and safe pass. Heads up driver here. Got to be careful coming into turn 1 here, not to break into the corner. Another nice pass allowed with the Mustang. This corner here is extremely hard on tires. Real tight, tough turn right here. Now the same thing on a left turn. Turn 20, coming up to the start-finish line. Guy on the M3 is cutting it awfully close on track here, and as you'll see, he's going to block for his buddy. He's going to block me for the GT350 to get by him to try to keep me behind, which is kind of bad etiquette on track. So right now he has the opportunity to let me go by, and he holds me here. Kind of giving him the message. Finally allows me a pass here. You're going to see, you can see the dust. The guy in the GT350 is pushing himself really hard to try to keep ahead. Goes off track 2 different times here. You'll see another cloud of dust up here on the right. There's a Beamer M2. Another nice point by here. .120 coming into turn 1. This guy allows us both to go by safely. And the guy finally lets me get by here as well. Coming up on a Corvette Z51 C7. Coming down the long straight, should hit about 133 miles an hour here. .134. So there you have it, guys. The car's quite a beast on track, completely stock setup except for -2 camber adjustment in the front and rear, 1.5, minus 1.5 in the rear. Stock tires, stock setup. So hope you enjoyed it.